Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Real Scene podcast with myself, Simon Hunter. Very happy to see you all again this week, and we're going to have a fantastic guest this week, Manuel Puro, who is joining us, who is a very well-established and extremely well thought of casting director based in the UK. And we're going to talk all things casting. And when I'm often teaching students, when I take time off and give a lecture or a workshop, I'm actually always telling them that the one area that I have learnt, usually to my cost, that you need to spend time and even possibly even money on, my goodness, is casting and getting a decent casting director. So Manuel, welcome. Very nice of you to join us. Thank you so much for...
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Simon. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. It's the money's the most important element here. You've got to pay your casting director more than anyone else.
More important than that, even if they don't cast it for you.
More than the lead actor. Absolutely. That's the... I wish.
So,
I wish.
Could you, for people who don't really know, because I think the most way that when most people are starting off making their own independent film, the way we used to do it is we do our own casting call, we put it online, these are the parts that we want, and you get thousands of CVs back. It's quite depressing actually when you see it. Actually, you realise how many actors are out there trying to make it big or even small. And you look through all the CVs, and then you hire a little room in central London and you pick from the CVs, 20 people per part, they come, you interview them, you do it, blah, 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 blah. So I suppose the question that filmmakers might ask is, if they can kind of do it themselves, why would they come to a casting director?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. It is sort of an expertise and doing it day by day. I mean, I'm the same. You know what? When my car breaks down, I love getting onto YouTube, trying to figure out how to fix it and getting stuck in and trying to fix it. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then I go to the mechanic, who obviously has years of experience. And oftentimes when I go to the mechanic, they'll go, oh, you know, this model was known for this problem and that problem. And they know within seconds they'll fix it. And it would have taken me ages and ages to kind of figure all of this out. And I kind of think that we're the same casting people. We're sort of a middleman between, I suppose, actors and producers and directors. And because we're doing it every single day, day in, day out, we have these relationships, certainly with agents, which is a necessary evil. I shouldn't really say that. I used to work for an agent. My sister is an agent, so
your sister,
they're not really
one of your relatives is independent or somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah, she has just left because she's moved into a completely different country now. But she's an agent now over in Lisbon. Funnily enough, in Lisbon,
hard job
she works
being an agent. You're always why am I not doing better? Is the sum of every call.
Yeah, why am I not getting paid more? And so yes, it's more just that we kind of. I think we build up more relationships with agents. We have a wider knowledge of actors, and then all the way through the process, we kind of know how to speak to actors and hopefully help get the best out of it. I mean, I've really made my kind of niche is independent film, and I've worked with a lot of first-time filmmakers, and I think, you know, sometimes people are not natural at speaking with actors. They're not quite sure what they can do, and I think we can kind of bridge that knowledge and kind of show directors how fun actors are and how you can push them around, and in terms of the performance and how you can get the most out of them.
I think I always tell students that when people are because there's always the plus and minuses of doing rehearsal, and a lot of established directors don't like doing that because it's, you know, you save that the curtain opens on the day when the camera's running and you get that magic then. But I think if you were starting out now fresh, having never directed, I sort of think that the rehearsals allow you to do what you just been saying, which is you just get to know actors and get to see them as human beings and find a way of talking to them, and it's great for that world, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and casting sessions, you know, when you're auditioning actors, when you get them in the room, they're fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity to hear the script out loud, see what actors do with them, kind of figure out whether characters are working or not working, whether bits of dialogue is working or not. And then, yes, just to finish with the casting director, we also kind of do the deals for the actors. We kind of negotiate their contracts on behalf of the producer. So again, we kind of know what's fair and what's not fair. Again, I like to think that we're kind of in the middle. We you know, agents will ask for the moon on a stick. You know, they'll ask for everything, but I think we kind of know what's fair and what's a good balance. So we don't want actors to be exploited and completely ripped off, but at the same time, we understand when agents might be pushing it a little bit. So I actually think that we probably do end up saving productions money on that basis. we'll know all the ins and outs of certain kinds of contracts and different contracts, and whether you're using union contracts or independent contracts. So it's it's kind of quite a wide ranging remit, I suppose, for a casting director. It's quite a wide ranging. Yeah, we kind of take it from beginning to end where actors are involved.
I think people see, in a way, I always found, because I've become very, very much, with film, as you go through your career, you distance yourself from some bits and you think, God, that's so overblown. And then other bits you become closer to, you think that's so worth it. And I really can, hand on heart, even though, interviewing you today is a casting director is my number one thing. If I was starting off, is the thing that I didn't do, but they're so worth it. I think for me, what we forget is they're sort of hubs, aren't they? That you daily, I'm sure you get CVs, invitations to screenings, theatre, independent film. You're getting that the whole time and looking at people and doing films at the moment. So you see who's coming up and have got small parts, and the range of your knowledge, your outlook every day is vastly greater than any director will have. I think so many directors, they're just looking at what's on television or film at the moment and at that moment, and so's everybody else. It really doesn't help you very much because everybody's after those same people, whereas your world is so much broader.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. You have a depth of knowledge, and you have again, it's this kind of human element, having relationships that kind of go for years and years and years, because everyone's in this for really for the long haul. And so you meet actors straight out of drama school that become stars or become really well known, and you can watch how their careers develop, and you can same with agents and even assistants. I mean, it's like anyone in this business. You start off and you're all nobodies to begin with, but then if you can kind of cling on little by little, all the agents, assistants that you kind of run around with become major agents. All the actors that you used to run around with become stars. And again, it's just it is this sort of depth of knowledge. We should really talk about just kind of quickly from a real, because there's kind of two types of casting. One is when you're trying to cast star names to draw finance to a project. So that to me is very separate from the actual, in my view, the kind of real job of casting, where you're getting actors in the room and you're auditioning people. They're two very kind of separate things, because the way you get bigger name actors or those kind of financeable actors, you're making people offers. You're not auditioning them. You're making people offers. And so
Can we say a little bit about that, in the sense that is, for people who don't know, is if you're trying to finance a film, through either pre-sales or maybe people in the industry, or to get sales figures from a sales agent company, the first thing they always say to you is name, who's in it, and it is like you say, isn't it? It's I'm just going to give an offer. It's a mechanical thing more than anything, isn't it? It's much less creative.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, you try and make it as creative as possible. You don't want to be suggesting big name actors that are not going to be right for a project, but at the same time, it's a very limited pool, and so it's kind of like it is a mechanical sort of process. You do make an offer, you wait around for a while, you nag the agent, has so and so read this, and again, the casting director should have a sense of what's really likely and what's not likely. You're always kind of punching above your weight. Certainly on an independent project, you didn't never really have the finances or the the deep pockets of some of the big studios. But sometimes you just know that a certain actor will be open to a certain kind of role or a certain kind of material, and so it becomes less about money and more about the work, which is the really good thing. That's the beautiful thing, that if you're that you may just have an offhand conversation with an agent that says, oh, so and so's looking to do something a little bit different, or maybe just something a bit more intimate, and so you just think, great, I've got a project that's something more meaningful, maybe. Everyone needs to get paid, everyone needs to earn a paycheck, but I think certain actors, sometimes they kind of have more money than they know what to do with, and so they start looking for more meaning in the work that they're doing. And I think sometimes the casting director, I mean, we're not miracle workers. We can't suddenly, I think sometimes people think, oh, I'll get a casting.
We'll come back and do the sort of creative side of casting in a second, but when you're looking for those name actors, is there anything in the sense of if you offer people something that they haven't really done before, is that an advantage to you as a independent filmmaker? Because it seems to me you always have to think, where have I got an advantage and the big filmmakers have got a disadvantage. And their disadvantage is they don't want to take any risks because they're spending so much money. Whereas if you're doing a smaller independent film and you're offering a comedic actor something serious because you think that they can do it and they might be really interesting and they haven't done it before, is that a you think that's a good way to
Yeah,
do it?
there's going to be all sorts of different kind of factors involved. I mean, that's a big part of it, trying to find somebody that trying to find something that somebody hasn't done before and try and pitch it in that way. Sometimes I mean it's what am I trying to say here? That I mean, there will be lots of different kind of reasons that you can that you. I mean, and ultimately, actually, it always comes down to script. It really has to. It comes down to the script, so not necessarily the director's experience. I mean, it's great if they've done something before, or you've got a really cool short that you can show, or something like that. But first and foremost, it has to be the script. And I think the casting director, I have to really believe in that script. If I'm making phone calls to top agents and trying to get their big name clients to, just even read or consider a low budget or an independent film, I really, really do have to believe in the script, because I think if I went kind of into the market with a script that I didn't really believe in, then eventually people would stop kind of listening, I suppose. Eventually people would just think, oh, well, here's just another rubbishy script or another rubbishy project coming from this person. So I think the casting person really has to believe in it. And I think once you've got a really good script and something you really believe in, then again, it depends on the trajectory of the actor and where they are in their career. Because I think sometimes if an actor is kind of on that upward slope, on that upward kind of trajectory, and they've only just recently become well known or become a name because they've had recent success with something, then they're probably less likely to want to do something completely different, or at least their agents are probably less likely to advise them to do something completely different. They'll probably want to kind of build on the upward trajectory until they are properly established. So sometimes yes, you think, oh, I cannot offer this actor something completely different that they've not done before, but you can kind of see actually the agent would probably, I mean, I'd certainly, if I was their agent, I would probably say, no, don't do that just yet. You can do that 2 or 3 projects down the line, but let's really solidify your position in the industry. And sometimes that means, you may have played a fantastic lead role in an independent film, but maybe then you go and play the second role opposite a Tom Cruise or a massive movie star, because that's going to be better for you than playing another lead in a small independent film, doing something completely different. So it really depends. And again, this is kind of why you would have a casting director, because I think they'd just help you navigate all of those different parts
Because
of it,
otherwise
I
you're
think.
completely lost, aren't you? And you're also calling an agent with no experience. Who are you when you're calling them? And
Yeah, we have a funny there's a funny kind of symbiotic relationship with agents, because we kind of obviously we need each other, and we kind of have to do favors for each other, but different ways. So sometimes I have to really suck up to an agent because I want access to their big name star, but sometimes the agent has to suck up to me because they want access to some of the smaller roles to start building up their clients. And so we always have this kind of funny
people
dance
forget
where,
that it's a two-way process, isn't it? It's not always
yeah,
you
of
just
course,
need their client. It's
yeah,
actually, oh gosh, I've got a client here. They haven't worked for a while. You're doing a whole bunch of independent films. Hi, Manuel,
yeah,
is
that's
there
right. Or
anything
they
there
or they
for them?
Yeah, or they exactly, or they have a client. I mean, really, literally, they have a client either from drama school that needs to start building credits, or a client that has just got a massive divorce bill, or suddenly their kids are off to university and they hadn't thought about it, and suddenly they need a paycheck. And so there's all sorts of, yeah, there's a real kind of balance of power, but not, that kind of just keeps shifting continuously. And so, yeah, that, yeah, it's which is kind of quite nice. It's quite a nice, it all sort of comes out in the wash, I
Yeah.
suppose. It all kind of works.
And that's a difficult relationship for filmmakers to have because they just don't have that. They're just so new to it. You're calling blind. You don't know really what the parameters are on money. You don't know this, you don't know that, and you don't know how difficult it is to get somebody. I remember I was on a film once and it was quite a well-known actor, and I think they were an intern, they hadn't done anything, they were introducing them saying, oh no, I spoke to them and I said no, we needed to get back to them because I think they were asking for certain per diems, certain this at the actor. And I remember the producer was there and they absolutely bollocked them. They said, we so need this actor. You are not messing around on this and this. Just call them back, say sorry, agree to everything they want because we need them. And you sort of see that. Maybe we, I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about the sort of casting process that you like, which is away from that star-driven, we need a name, we need a name, because the 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 we need a name thing is always a bit zero sum game. Sometime I find that it's just, you need somebody to finance the film, but that person is so expensive to get, so difficult, that it just puts your budget up for your film, and you almost won't recoup on that budget. So it's that it doesn't hardly ever makes sense on those sort of things. It's just something to tell distributors so they can plonk a name on it. But I think where your passion is more great cast that fits the film, isn't it? Do you want to just talk a little about that? You're
Yeah, I
very
think so. I think
you're quite
every
unique in that. A lot of casts they're so name focused because that's the industry, but and that's right. But actually, and I think probably more and more so in today's world is getting those people that look absolutely like they could do no other role than the role in your film is.
yeah, I think that's it. I think once you've I think sometimes actually casting isn't really even involved in the big lead names with big studio projects. Sometimes, I mean, that's going to be agents, head of an agency, head of a studio. All of that kind of takes place outside of the casting director's office. And when the script lands on your desk, it's already got this guy's attached and this person's attached, and then you cast the rest. Sometimes casting is involved, like I said, sometimes casting is involved in those higher level roles, but I'm not saying it's thankless, but it's there's a certain amount of creativity there, but it is very much a functional money offer, wait around and see. But I kind of imagine that for most casting people, actually, the real joy of the job is casting all the secondary roles, all the small roles, all the really good support roles. The ones where you really do have a choice of kind of any actor. You don't necessarily have to always be going for names or even recognizable actors. And I think we all have our own processes in how we go about doing that. But I think I've always been very open, actually, just really wide open. And there's technology has kind of helped over the years. I think for me personally, I was real, and I still am a big fan of self-tapes because I think it's just a really good way of offering lots of actors, getting a lot of different kind of takes on a particular character and just seeing a whole bunch of new people that I've never seen before. I tend to ask for lots of self-tapes when I'm in my casting process. I want to do lots and lots of self-tapes because I want to watch lots of self-tapes. I think that's, and I'm not scared of big numbers. That's for me is the job. It's like, what a great job that I sit around watching actors kind of invent characters and be creative. And so I love watching loads and loads of self-tapes. I end up sharing a certain number with a director. I don't share everything. I do filter, and I'll share a certain number with a director, and then kind of together with the director we sort of discover who the role is or what the role is, because it does change. It's kind of, there's nothing properly set in stone. Even if a director has a very clear vision, it's I kind of almost see that as a bit of a challenge to
It's nice,
try
part
and
of the creative process, and it's sometimes you look on something, you go, I so didn't imagine them like that, but that's
yeah,
cool. That's
somehow
that's
how it
magical.
kind of
Can you just go through the process for me? Just so I'm an independent filmmaker, I come to you, we agree that you're going to cast the movie, and how does that work? What do you expect the director and the writer to do? To give you a little synopsis of each character so that you can go out from that? How does that
yeah,
process?
I can. I mean, sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll do a lot of that stuff myself anyway, because I tend to, like I said, I tend to. Sometimes you do meet directors that have really specific ideas, but for maybe a really small role, and they'll say, "Oh, there's a nurse in this project, and I want somebody with the charisma of Kate Winslet and the looks of so and so." And you just go, "This is an impossibility. You can't. This is like a one-day role, and you're kind of you have in your head that you're gonna." It's not that they want to cast these people, but they want somebody with all these sorts of attributes, and you just think, well, talking like that's kind of ridiculous. You've just got to see a bunch of actors play the role and figure out who the role is and how the actor kind of shows you how the role should be played. I mean, a good actor, and this is kind of what you were saying before. If you cast a project properly, it's not that it makes itself, but if you cast the right actors that really understand their characters and kind of show you this is the character, this is how it should be played, then the job of the director on set is much easier because you have full confidence that the actor is going to do. They're going to know what they need to do. You will direct them,
I
obviously,
think
but
if you get the script right and you cast it well, I've always thought with films you're pretty much there. Yes, all the other stuff we talk about is great and can make it a masterpiece. It's lovely and lenses and this and this and this and this and this. But those two things you cannot screw up on.
yeah,
You cannot.
yeah,
You can make, the different choices in camera and music and all sorts of other things. If you don't cast it right and you don't get that initial story idea right, you're, you've
Yeah, then you're yeah. Then you're not kind of going to get anywhere. So yeah, so I love self tapes. I love getting lots of self tapes. I'll share self tapes. So again, it seems like very low risk that I can then share self tapes with the director. We can discuss what they like, what they don't like.
you
I'll
edit
get an
those
idea.
down, don't you? You don't show directors. You get in dozens and dozens of self tapes per. So
Yeah.
you go out to a select group that you like, that you think are appropriate.
Well,
Or do you
I
do a
tend to be
general kind of?
yeah, I tend to be very wide open. So depending on the project and what the I mean, obviously, sometimes there are certain parameters, certain kind of logistical parameters. But say for a normal British independent film that's shooting in the UK, then I would probably be looking for UK based actors. I mean, sometimes if a project was shooting in Berlin or Budapest or somewhere else, then I can widen the search to Europe because everyone's going to be flying into Berlin. You know, if it's an English language project shooting in Berlin, you're going to be bringing actors from all over the place. So I can kind of search a bit wider. So obviously budgetary concerns, various things. Sometimes if a project, for example, shoots, say, in Newcastle, you're shooting a film in Newcastle, again, maybe you want to try and find local actors kind of as a first step so that it just saves the production, transport and hotel and per diem costs. So there's all those kind of considerations. But I tend to go out to everyone. I love starting with a completely blank kind of page. I don't have lists of actors. I mean, some casting directors do work this way, where they'll have a list of actors in their 20s, they'll have another list of actors in their 30s, and whenever a role comes up, they just go to the same list or even the same list of agents. I tend to be very open. Like I said, I'm not scared of big numbers. There are so many actors and there are so many agents, but I don't mind getting overwhelmed by the number of suggestions because I think that's just part of the job. And there's I actually I'm comforted by big numbers because I feel that if I get 2,000 suggestions for one role, which is kind of what I get from time to time, I get 1,000 to 2,000 suggestions per role. So I know I'm
That's
going to
right.
find the one actor. We're going to find the one person right out of that group of 2,000. Sometimes I'll put a roll out and I'll only get 3 suggestions because it's very specific. And then I worry because you think, well, I know these 3 people and they're not going to be able to do this role and I can't magic up an actor from out of nowhere. So I like big numbers. I like getting the bigger
Do,
numbers.
do you like the director to be very specific when they're writing out who they're looking for, or do you prefer to keep it broad?
Like I said, I don't mind. I will listen to a director, of course, and I will take their notes on board, and that we'll have little discussions sometimes about who they see in the role or what they see. But like I said, I do think it's my job is to take all of that on board and show a few options that are in that kind of vein, but also to challenge the director and to not challenge, but just to kind of show them some alternatives. I mean, I'd go as far as changing genders and just kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say this to the director beforehand, but because I would know the full script and know the bigger picture, I would know that a certain character, for example, doesn't necessarily need to be male or female or a certain age or a certain nationality. And I might just throw in a few curveballs and ask a few people randomly not randomly, but I'll ask a few people to self tape and say, listen, don't worry about what it says in the script. Just you make this character your own. And then I can, like I said, the self tape is such a kind of low risk way of exploring ideas with a director. I know actors put a huge amount of time into them, and it can stress them out, and they can spend hours and hours on these things. But then when I share them with the director, I can kind of say, you know what, I decided to ask a French person much older than in the script to do the role because I just thought it might be interesting. And really, oftentimes directors look at those and go, oh my God, that's so completely different to how I saw the character, but it really works. It really seems to work. And that's when I think, great, I've done a good job there. We've done, and we may or may not cast that person, but it's just, we have that kind of ability, I suppose, or we have that opportunity to show a director lots of different things and lots of different ways of approaching a character. And then eventually, this is for me the really critical part. I love self tapes, but we need to get actors in the room. Not all of them. So that I would encourage a director to really cull the list of. I've started maybe with 1,000
So the
suggestions, and I
list is
can't.
basically at least 50, say 1,000, 1,500 for a sort of normal, unless they're very super specialised. That comes down to, you dwindle that down to 20, 30-ish, then that
Yeah,
the director, and then in the room 10, 15. Is that sort of?
yeah. I'd even go try and squash those numbers down a little bit. I think in the room, I think if you've seen a set, and again, it depends on the complexity of the role and the director's confidence and various things. But I think, I might share, yes, from 1,000, I might ask for, I don't have a limit of self-tapes that I ask for. I kind of go through a process where and it's just my own process. I go through a process and I ask for a certain number of self-tapes. Sometimes that might be just 20. Sometimes it can be significantly more, depending on just loads of different reasons. And I don't cap it. I don't kind of go, oh, right, I've hit my limit I've asked for 50 self-tapes, that's it, I'm not going to ask for any more. I want to be more open than that. I don't want there to be this artificial limit. So sometimes I'll find that I've asked for, really 100 self-tapes, which is a lot, but it's like, I'd rather watch 100 self-tapes and give 100 actors an opportunity to audition for this role than kind of self-censor myself too much and only ask 5 people to self-tape, because that's just a way I can learn about new actors and see different approaches. And then I will share with the director. I probably wouldn't want to share more than about 20 in total with the director. But again, I don't really have an upper limit or anything. I'll just share the ones that I think are interesting enough to share with the director. And then I really would encourage a director to bring as few as they feel comfortable. So even if it's just 3 or 4 in the room, and spend time, because you've kind of seen their approach to the character, and then bring them into the room.
Seeing multiple people just dazzles your head, and you just
Yeah,
wood from the trees, and it's better to spend a bit more time with a smaller select group.
Yeah, I do. I really think so. Yeah, I do. And you can always, if you do a session like that and you see 3 or 4 people and you're still not, you don't think you found what you're looking for, you can always go back and you can always invite more people in. But I think I have this kind of crazy thing of in my youth going off traveling, and I remember I spent a year traveling around Africa. And when I got home to visit my mum, I literally went to see my mum, and my mum asked me to go to the supermarket to get some shampoo. I remember standing this was my kind of culture shock, standing in the supermarket, probably for about 2 hours in front of, I don't know, 300 different kinds of shampoo, kind of going, because when I was traveling around Africa, you'd go into a shop and you'd say, I need some shampoo. And they would have one bottle of shampoo. This is the shampoo. Standing there with this choice of 300 choices. And I read every single one. I picked every single one up. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to choose this for my mum. And I read every single one, and this is for this kind of hair, that kind of hair, whatever. And it was all just mind blowing. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of massive choice, giving a director massive choices, because I think it can paralyze you, and it can be confusing. And I'd rather try and get the director during the self-tape stage to really narrow down and just be ruthless, choose the 3 or 4 or 5 people that they like. Because I think what happens is you never really cast individuals. You're always casting. You're casting an ensemble. Even if there's a massive lead role, you're always casting. That lead role will have a partner or have brothers or sisters or different family members or whatever. There'll always be other characters involved. And I think because the next stage, once you've kind of got your 4 or 5 and you're seeing them in the room, then you still might have just then 2 favourites out of those 4 or 5 that you've seen. And then the ideal for me would then be doing another session, like a chemistry session, where you've got the last 2 or 3 from this role, you've got the last 2 or 3 in that role, and you know that they interact a lot within the project. And then you start doing them all in different combinations so that you can really see the actors bouncing off each other. There's this whole human level of chemistry that you cannot predict. You cannot. You have to get people in a room.
Isn't it? It's the magic thing of God.
Yeah, it really is genuinely the magic that sometimes you can have 2 unbelievably brilliant actors, but you put them in a scene together and it just doesn't work. They don't gel, or there's just not that chemistry. And so I think it's, like I said, I love all the self-tape stuff. I love the efficiencies it allows, but being in the room with an actor and then eventually getting different actors in different combinations in a room together is absolutely my favorite bit of the job, where you see it in the room and you see the chemistry and your hair stand on end because like I said, you can't really predict. So I think sometimes from a self-tape, directors go, well, I think I know who I'm going to cast. It's like resist casting from the self-tape. Let's just bring in 2 or 3 of them into the room, because you just never know. And these chemistry auditions, they're just, again, brilliant bit of the job where you're in a room and you're watching that magic happen, and you see it becomes very clear. I've got to cast this person. I've got to cast that person. That might be very different to how you originally thought. It might be very different from what you were thinking after watching self-tapes. But there's just something in that happens with timing.
So many filmmakers do writers do rewrites after, in the
Yeah,
room sessions, because you're just listening to the actors using the words, and they have suggestions of themselves, and
yeah.
they have deep dives on the characters and things you haven't thought about, and you're just like,
That's right. It's such a movable feast. The whole of this filmmaking and TV making, it's all so movable. I think sometimes people think everything's kind of set in stone and that the script is set in stone and the director knows exactly what they want and what their vision is. But it's always evolving. Everything's evolving when you start casting, then when you start filming and you're actually in physical locations and certain things that you wanted to do will work or they won't work. And then again in the edit room, everything changes all over again. You throw away the script and you just have your footage and you go, right now, what's the story we're going to tell here? And it's always just evolving, and I think you've got to kind of roll with the punches. I suppose everyone has to roll with all of that and understand that things are just changing. Yeah, everything changes all throughout the entire process.
and what's your role when once the thing is cast? I mean, how does that? Because you've got a quite a you've got it on set. You've got actors got to be there. They've got to be happy. There's problems. How does that?
Yeah, the for me it's normally so. Yes, I'll you end up choosing an actor. Then, like I said, then I have to try and close the deal. I then kind of again act as a middle person between the agent or the actor directly and the producers and try and close that
You
deal.
tell the producers rough. They give you have a pre-discussion what these people might cost, whether you're doing a short film and it's just maybe expenses and travel or something, and you have that
Yeah,
so you don't waste people's time. That's part of the thing.
yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Again, part of the, there'll be a cast budget in the way that there'll be a budget for, construction, and there'll be a budget for catering, and there'll be a cast budget. And again, the good producers kind of share. They may not share everything with you. They may not,
They never
and
share
it's not like
everything with anybody.
it's not like they give you the suitcase of cash and go, there's your cast budget, go and spend it wisely. It's always, yeah, they'll kind of say we can afford this, we can afford that. And so, yes, the actors that I'll be kind of pursuing or bringing in, I will, yeah, you try and make sure that because again, you don't want your director to fall in love with somebody and then just realize that there's just no way you're going to be able to afford that person, or because again, it's just a massive waste of time for everybody. But yes, usually once a kind of a contract is signed, it's kind of from a very technical point of view. Once a kind of a deal is agreed, I then get the contact details from that actor, from the agent, and then I pass that on to the production. And then all the real logistical things like getting people to airports or getting people to turn up on set, all of that gets taken care of by the production, not by the casting office. Once I've kind of got the actors' contact details, pass that to production so they can arrange all the costume fittings and all the various things. And in an ideal world, that's the last I ever hear of it. But of course, sometimes you do end up getting involved again, sometimes because of certain kind of problems or schedule changes, or yeah, just various things that you're still involved. And even after a project has finished filming, it can again, you can still be involved 6 months after something's been finished filming, when people are in the edit room, when again either certain things are not working, if the unfortunate cases where you may have to recast and things like this, that yeah, or even just trying to smooth things over between agents and actors and different, again, yeah, sometimes you can be involved very, very late on. But ideally, once I've got the contact details of the actors, when all the deal points are kind of agreed and I've passed that on to production, then
They take
yeah,
care of it.
casting is, we're not really that involved in, yeah, in making sure they turn up on set on time and what they're eating for their lunch and all of that. There'll be someone on production, one of the assistant directors, kind of deals with that side of things.
And sort of wind up in our conversation. One of the things, obviously, in the
We've only just started,
no,
Simon.
it could go on for hours. It's such a fascinating area, and it's such a creative area, and it's a real area of just one of the great areas is just discovering talent and discovering people who haven't had that much break, and somebody's just done something, and you as Manuel and you see something in them that maybe other people haven't. Said, this person, I've just seen they've done something, they haven't really done much, have a look at them, and they shine in your film. And I've had this a few times. You always get the credit as director, but really it's casting director, and it's amazing, it's magical when that happens, because and it's much less. You just don't get that if you have a very well-known actor who you can deliver. It's really a financial magic, that you're getting them there for your film. I mean, I don't mean it that way in a blasé way, but it's just discovering talent, breaking talent is super. It's
Yeah,
an
I think again, yeah,
amazing thing. How do people? Let's do the dirty stuff now. How do people pay for all this nonsense? What what do they do? If you're an independent producer, you come and see a casting director and you say, "Look, I've got this amount of money for casting." And just you sort of break it down per, if you want, the more parts I'm casting, obviously it's going to take more of my time. How does all that?
Yeah, my involvement or my financial involvement. Yeah, it's sort of casting is kind of quite unique. It's kind of like it's a little bit like script writing because it's not you're not going to get a costume designer to start making costumes before your film is greenlit and before you kind of know, and you're not going to get people building sets and things. But casting is kind of unusual because we're outside of that process, and we are involved oftentimes much earlier than any other crew member apart from the script writer and the director. In fact, I really like this. I like this part of the part of the job is I really have great intimate relations with, in the platonic sense, but with directors, producers, with writers, because we're a team usually before money's really flowing to a project, and we're there building everything right from the very, very beginning. Where we miss out as casting people, and this is very much in general, where we miss out, we're not really there on set. We're not there during the actual filming, where, again, everyone involved there is almost like
Machine.
going through a war. And you build all these bonds and you go through these incredible experiences together as a crew, but we're sort of outside of that. By the time all of that happens, our job is more or less done. So I feel like I miss out on that kind of camaraderie of just let's
The
get this
writer
done
often
and
feels
working.
like that. I think it's quite a hard.
Yeah,
It's
actually.
quite a hard thing. It's just you're working intimately with casting or writing as a director, and it's just very quiet. It's like now when we're talking about
And then you don't,
projects.
and
Compared to
when you
Machine, it's like
start,
I haven't got time to speak to them. But action,
well,
get over. It is an
that's
army
right.
moving, and
You're kind of like involved. I mean, really, almost 24 hours a day with the directors and producers as you're leading up, and then as soon as filming starts, they never respond to my emails anymore. They never answer my calls because obviously you're on set and you're doing something completely different. But oh God, sorry, I forgot what was the question. The oh, what am I? Yeah, how do I get
financials.
involved? So it's so yeah, I would normally get involved and kind of get paid in various steps. And you know what? I really don't know how other casting people do this so much. This is just how I've always done it. So it's yeah, you would try and negotiate certainly kind of a development phase. You didn't negotiate a certain fee just for the pre-production. It's where it's not really greenlit, where you're trying to help get a project
Or maybe
greenlit.
get
And
names.
then, yeah, exactly. You're trying to just attach one name or two names, and so there'll be a certain fee for that. And then if the project is kind of greenlit and you start, I mean, for me, the if I'm starting to do auditions in asking for self tapes and doing auditions, that kind of would, for me, trigger another payment. That's kind of right now we're starting proper casting, and then you kind of like most crew members, you get probably another payment on the first day of principal photography. So I try and negotiate a fee for the entire project, but I'd split it into different stages and understand that sometimes films they will not go to green light. I'm just going to be working on it in this small kind of development phase, and that can last for years and years. What yeah, and I probably shouldn't say, but I tend not to put time limits on things. I'm aware how long it is, and it's not how long it can take to get responses from people, and so I tend not to put too many time limits. I think after a few years, everyone kind of realizes that the project may not be going anywhere. But I kind of think that again, if I really need to like the script and believe in the project, like I said, and then you just think, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I want to see this made, and so I don't mind if it's going to take 2 years or 3 years to go through a list of well-known people. Of course, if the money's there, sometimes producers are amazing and somehow they've rustled up the money from somewhere without needing that name to begin with. But then it's great. Then I mean, you're in a really strong position there. If you've got money to go and make a film, you're in a really good, strong position to attach or to cast well-known actors because it's a real project that's kind of happening within a certain time frame. And even if you don't have the money to pay them their normal rates, it's kind of if someone's available. I mean, almost all actors would rather be working than not working. And I think, again, certain actors, I mean, I would say most actors don't really do it for the money anyway. And so if
It's always the text.
that's not to say you,
The script matters. It's just what
yeah,
you
and it's
do,
not to
what
say you
you go
can
through.
always,
It's that text,
yeah,
the subject matter, the idea, what they feel about it is everything.
yeah, and the timings and all of those things. It's not, it's not like you're going to always be able to cast super A-list stars and pay them equity minimums, and they're going to say yes. It's. I mean, if it was that easy, we would all be doing that. But yeah, sometimes you can just get the right timing, and you can find an actor that is willing to do something because, again, they believe in the project, they believe in the director, or they appreciate and understand how their presence will elevate a project and help sales and get more visibility for kind of projects. So it's which is heartening. It's great. I mean, it can be brilliant actually when you finding new talent is super. I mean, it is brilliant. That's what we all love. But sometimes getting a yes from an actor that you know is getting paid, I mean, literally sometimes 100 times what you're able to offer, but would they still say yes? That can also be equally rewarding. Thinking
Because
that
it's a massive thumbs up of the project, isn't it? Of the
yeah,
text, that the text has something that they deeply
yeah,
respond to.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah, no, indeed, it's
can we just
yeah, and
quickly?
it's kind of heartwarming. It's
It is. You know that, and they
you
do that
realise that.
sometimes, and they just see something, and you just think, actually, I've got something here.
Yeah, because the finances can be so, sometimes the money can be so kind of ridiculous and people get paid this and that and the other, but sometimes it just comes down to the creativity and the role, and the people are doing everything for the right reasons, and that is very satisfying. All of us, everyone on a project, we all need to pay the rent and we all need to make a living, but sometimes when it all kind of comes together and you do get even big name actors and big name DPs and different people kind of going, no, I believe in this project, let's get it done, then it's a great feeling. It's a good feeling.
But just one thing I just wanted to touch on again, because I know everybody's so, this is such a big thing with producers, which is the attaching names to projects to get stuff done. I mean, how does that work in essence? With you have a project, we're in development. It's a British horror movie or something. We've got $500,000, and you want or whatever, a Sean Beam or somebody to come and do a few days. And I say, Manuel, hi, can we do a deal together where we pay you some development money as a production, and you go out to two or three, Sean Bean-esque style or whatever, that sort of level of names you think you might get for a few days to be in it. What happens there? Do you submit scripts to agents and they give you letters of intent, and that's pretty much all you get? And is that worth the paper it's written on? How does that process work?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I try. I mean, yeah, sort of. People still kind of ask for these letters of intent. I mean, I do think they're kind of meaningless. It's more, and it's. I mean, yeah, you want again. Our job really is to do a bit of kind of due diligence and to do a little bit of, as a casting director. Like I said, when you approach an agent, I need to be pretty sure that if the actor says yes, that we're approaching, that the producer does have the capability to raise the money. They've got to know where that money is coming from, and that name that you're approaching really ought to be kind of pre-approved by their potential financiers. You don't want to, and because really all different kinds of finances have very different ideas of who has value and who doesn't have value, and all sales agents, I mean, apart from the absolute top A-list actors that everyone can name off the top of their head who will have global value, it's incredible how different sales agents see different kind of actors and what they
And
bring
it's
to a
amazing,
project.
isn't it? Because a sales agent effectively is still, they're all selling it to the same places. So it should all be the same in some ways, shouldn't it? It's just like one lot sales agent will say, oh no, we don't really like him. Another one will say, oh no, we love
Yeah,
him. But
yeah,
they
and
all
it's
are
so
going to market with that same film.
yeah, it's everyone has their. I mean, it's frustrating, but it's the beauty of it as well that everything is different. Because again, otherwise everything would be standardized, and we're not making. It's not like you're selling standardized products like a cup. This cup, which you could make a billion of these and they would all be exactly the same. It's every project is going to be complete. Every film is different and is going to, and again, timing wise and what audiences kind of want and all of these things. It's so impossible to kind of. I mean, you will have people that will sell you systems and will say, "Oh, well, this is the way to do," but nobody. I mean, going back to the old William Goldman, nobody really knows anything. Nobody knows how what's going to hit. You have a look at K-pop Demon Hunters or whatever that's called. Nobody knew that was going to be such a massive hit,
My son
and
mentioned
the
it
way
the other
that
day.
and the way that was kind of given any. There's nobody knows anything is a pretty good mantra
Yeah,
to kind
it
of
is.
live by, but yeah, the salespeople all do have different senses of value. And so I think when I talk to an agent, I do need to be pretty confident that the producers kind of know where their money is going to be coming from and that they're already kind of in reasonably advanced discussions with potential financiers. I wouldn't, if a producer came with absolutely nothing and had no real idea what they were going to do and just wanted to get Sean Bean attached, for example, then it's kind of, there's a missing link there for me, and I'd be really hesitant to kind of
Because
because if
then you
show
become the
me,
casting director that's just making all these offers that you can't follow through on.
yeah, I can't exactly. I'm yeah, exactly. Or that and this is where again I see it from the agent's point of view that if you attach a name to a project and they've read it and they fall in love with it and their agent has pitched it to them and I've done a big pitch to the agent does a big pitch to the client and go, look, it's not anywhere near your normal rate of pay, whatever. And then the actor reads it and they love it. And then if that project just doesn't happen, the actor can kind of go, well, what happened to that project? And they, not necessarily that they're going to fire their agent, but the agent then looks bad. And then the agent will take it out on me, like I said, because they wouldn't want to, and then the next time I call that agent saying, oh, I want so-and-so to read a script again, they'll go, well, we got burnt last time. That film didn't happen. And my client was upset by it. And there's all sorts of things. So in a way, yeah, my due diligence, I need to try to feel reasonably confident that the producers know what they're
So
doing.
only go to your casting director when you've got a sense that you are pretty damn close with finance, or it is just that name that will get you over the.
Yeah, just ideally know where your finance is likely to be coming from, and have conversations with sales agents so that again you know that the people that we want to approach or that you want your casting director to approach on your behalf know that they do actually have value, because it can be really. I mean, it is. Someone can be a real flavor of the month and have a huge Netflix show out, and everybody thinks, "Wow, if I can get that person, that'd be great." But oftentimes, 6 months, but by the time you finish your movie a year later, that series may have been cancelled or something may have changed, and that person really doesn't have any kind of real international value anymore, or not that they ever did. It's very
Smoke and mirrors.
it is kind of a complex marketplace and a really tough marketplace because because I guess it is dominated now by streamers, and somebody can be very big on a streaming service, but that's very different to when you're selling that project to a distributor somewhere else that's not a streamer. When you're trying to sell a film to a distributor in Korea and a distributor in Kuala Lumpur or wherever, just because they were on a big hit Netflix show, weirdly doesn't make that much of a difference to say if you're working on a film. It's so it can be very. Someone could have a really high IMDb rating, but that really doesn't mean anything in the marketplace. It's a bit of a guideline. Like I said, it's always shocking when people say, no, that person doesn't mean anything. I'm oftentimes, oh my gosh, really? That person won't move the needle at all? And it's like, no, they just don't. And there'll be a really well-known actor that gets paid a lot from streaming services or from different
I
things.
think sometimes cast is a comfort thing for everybody involved. It's more that it feels like, well, it's some sort of name, it's a comfort. Whereas actually the reality is the only names that really move people to go get out of their living room and go and see something are just their names that almost no independent producer will ever be approaching. And there's not many of them. You're probably on two hands, if that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. No, I
Lastly,
agree.
let's just talk about short films. Is it worth engaging casting director at that when you're doing?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes casting people do. I've done a fair bunch of short films. It sort of depends on my schedule as well, and kind of the expectations as well. I mean, it's a funny one, short films, because sometimes you can get reasonably well-known people that will do a short film, but sometimes again, I'll be approached by somebody and they do want absolute mega stars, and you just think, oh, I don't want to be kind of again using up my favors in a way. I'm using up my favors when I'm approaching a certain agent. So again, I'd really have to believe in a project and believe that the director and the producer have real potential to go on and do other things. But yeah, a lot of casting people will do short films, and a lot of casting assistants or casting associates, they will want to be building up their credits as
You
their
can go
casting director.
junior down, of
So
people
yeah,
just getting into casting that they may
yeah,
not.
so they'll be. I mean, even if they've been in casting for quite a while, they'll still do. They'll be wanting just to build up their own. It's kind of your own network, really. You're starting to build up your kind of client base
Because maybe
by
you'll
doing
go
some.
on, those filmmakers, if they do something good, they'll go on and
Well,
do.
exactly. They'll take you with them, and you'll do a short film, and then they'll take. You'll be part of their core team, and just like the DP and the costume person that will also work on a short film, you all hope that they'll take you on a journey that one of those people will. And it doesn't have to even be the director; it can be anyone on a crew that kind of goes and does something else and takes other people with them. So yeah, so I think a lot of casting associates, and casting assistants would do so. And again, they have the ear of the agents because they're working for within an established casting office with a bigger casting with a name casting director. If you have an associate or an assistant on your short film, they still have all the same access to all the agents because they're already working in a different, within that world. So yeah, it's always, I mean, it's worth approaching people. People can always say no. It's like any crew member, if they can always say no if they're too busy or they don't have the time to do it. So yeah, I think with short films, absolutely. Like I said, I've done loads of short films. I know lots of other casting people will do short films as well, but sometimes you just
And
have to say
actors
no.
like it, don't they? Because it helps, especially actors, emerging actors, because it broadens their show reel and they can show people the short film and say, look, I've done this. And, they've got something to show. They're building their own reel.
Yeah, again, it's always down to good script, interesting director with a vision, even if they've not done very much before, and just kind of being realistic and kind of having a little bit of money in a budget just to make sure that the actor is going to be looked after, that they're going to be, kind of really, I mean, it's really basic stuff like making sure they're going to have food, proper good food on set, make sure that they'll be taken back and forth from wherever they're living. And you just want to make it really easy and convenient for the actor. Not that they're going to get paid huge amounts of money for the actual
You have to, they're the
job.
people in front of your camera. I mean, they're your production value. They are
Yeah, you kind of,
making the
you
film,
just, and so for me, I would need to know that
all of
that
that.
they will be
Making
taken
sure it's
care
there.
of, that the yeah things are in place for the actors, that it's not going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I love shoestring budgets, and
Yeah,
we've
but
worked
bringing
on
your own
many.
lunch is not a great thing.
Yeah, but things like this, and even and sometimes getting a tube home at half midnight or something. It's like, no, you know what? Just provide an Uber for that actor because it's just worth it. Especially if they're filming the next day or something. I don't know.
You
It's
don't want
just
an actor coming to set the next day who's just not been taken care of.
frazzled or
Perhaps
yeah. I mean,
the person who's going to suffer the most is you as the filmmaker.
well, yeah, that's it. It's and again, this is kind of part of the sense of what's right for an actor and what where a casting director can really kind of just help a producer or the production side kind of understand that. I mean, I don't want to completely mollycoddle actors and spoil them, but at the same time, you've got to protect them, and you've got to, they are doing a different kind of job than the person behind the camera. They are vulnerable and exposed in front of the camera, and so there are certain things that you do have to just kind of take a bit more care and attention with that you wouldn't necessarily for the second AD or whatever, that they can get a tube in and that's kind of fine. But I think there'll be certain things that you just want to make sure that the actor is yeah taken care of in that sense. And with a short, if the budgets are tight, yeah, you've just got to make sure that the people have allocated money there to do stuff like that.
And lastly, what's your sort of biggest bugbear that filmmakers, the biggest mistake that you see again and again that you just wish, why are they doing that? And the thing that drives you crazy that you wish they wouldn't. Just your last piece of advice. Is it that we're getting hung up on names a little bit?
I guess, I mean, yeah, I wonder what it is. Yeah, I don't know. It is. I suppose it's
What did the studio head used to say? No names, just talent.
yeah, well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, my biggest bugbear. It's not necessarily to do with producers or individuals or anything, but it is this system that certainly in the UK, because we're kind of blessed in a way because we're making English language content, and that is kind of shown around the world. But we are then competing with America and Australia and other English language. We're completely competing with a huge kind of industry.
Yeah,
I think sometimes in
curse and a blessing.
smaller, like in Italy or in France, or sometimes it's a smaller pool that you're dealing with, and you're not. We've sort of in the UK, we've sort of try and emulate this American studio system, sort of, where we get stars attached and then we get money flows to projects. And I wish it wasn't that. I really do wish it was talent. And I wish that investors and financiers had a little bit more kind of belief in script and the filmmaking talent and didn't rely on names. But I'm aware that obviously at the other end of the scale, once you've got your film, you've got to get it in front of an audience. And I guess the shortcut is you get a famous person in, that will help bring an audience to a project. So I wish we could educate audiences, I suppose, to take a chance. I actually, you know what? I actually think that I wish we were paying different amounts of money when we were going to go. When we go to the cinema, I think I find it extraordinary that if I'm going to pay the same amount
It's
to go and watch
incredible
a
to
film
go and
that's
see a
cost
Marvel film that costs 250 million.
$200 million, and I'm
You
going
pay
to
the
pay the
same
exact
money
same
for an
amount.
indie film that costs half a million
Yeah,
pounds.
I wish that,
Insane.
you could pay £1 at the cinema to go and see an indie film that costs $500,000. I am £500,000 because I imagine that they would be just packed out. People go, well, I've got a quid, I'll go and see this. If it's no good, I can walk out. But that way, you build an industry, and you build
It's the
the next
elephant in the room, I
generation.
think, with the film industry, because people like communal experiences. But it is now a 30, 40, well, probably £50 plus
Yeah,
experience. You've got to get the ticket, you've got to get the drinks and whatever, and the tickets are 14, £15 for a little indie film, for a tiny little film that's been
yeah. So
made.
if
Wouldn't it be better if it's, if they split it and you did the huge big experience with the big screens and the massive tentpole movies and the indie films were
yeah.
at a much cheaper rate.
Yeah, I really can't think of any other industry where for the cost of the product that you're all paying the same. I mean, I understand that a Ferrari is going to cost me a bit of money
But if you
because it's
rent
a
a
Ferrari.
car tomorrow and you rent a little tiny
My little Fiat
little
500,
Fiat 500, you pay X, but it's not the
yeah,
same as renting a Mercedes.
that's right. And yeah, so in a way, I wish there was a little bit more flexibility there and a bit more because I do. I think there's a huge amount of talent. I mean, there's a huge amount of talent, but not just actors, but filmmakers
Everybody, yeah.
and you just yeah, I
And
just
you
wish
want
that there
that
was
communal experience. It's so nice when you have that as an independent
yeah.
level, people to go and see them. And I'm sure that
Yeah, so there was years and years ago. I remember Easy Jet and Easy
easy
Car, Easy
cinemas.
Rent Car. They were looking at that and having that kind of slightly different pricing, where if where you could have quite low tickets, but it never really.
Yeah.
I think they did open a couple of cinemas, but it
Yeah.
didn't really
It's
take
funny.
off.
It seems so like a market that there is something there to be grabbed if somebody grabbed it.
Yeah, and just allocate one screen out of a 20 screen multiplex. Just allocate one of those screens for maybe independent
At
films
a lower
and
price.
charge a lot less. And just see. And if somebody can't get into the Marvel movie, they might go, well, rather than go home or go somewhere else, I'll go and pay a couple of quid or 5 quid to go and see this film that I've never heard of anyone that's in it or whatever, but might be surprised they might find, in fact, I think this is happening in all of creative industries from music and different things. It's kind of like, yeah, we need to support the kind of the grassroots to kind of create this pipeline of talent that will then go on and become filmmakers of the future and big name filmmakers of the future.
You'll
We need to
graduate to
make sure
screen
that
one eventually.
yeah, exactly. We all need to, and again, and the actors need that opportunity to show that they can play leading roles, and then they can move on in their careers too. So yeah, that would be a nice thing. But I'm a realist as well. I do appreciate how the business really works, and so we're kind of stuck in that loop, I suppose, of getting names and trying to get names and all of that side malarkey.
It's a mad business. And well, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really, really appreciate it. And
Not at all.
get in touch and with Manuel if you've got that project and you have got some financing for it. I'm sure
Yeah, if you're a greenlit, super big budget
greenlit
film,
with just thousands to spend on
desperate.
casting. But I do wholeheartedly recommend getting involved in that casting process, trying to get a casting director early on in your project. The best money you will spend, really. It's that bar your script obviously most important thing, but then your cast that's what's going to make your film really more than anything. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much
Not at
for
all.
everybody
Always good.
listening for the Real Scene podcast. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.